Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss about the differences between VxRail and Nutanix. Nutanix and VxRail are popular creators of hardware appliances that are used in the creation of hyper-converged infrastructure systems for the businesses. In contemporary times, they play a decisive part in the cloud services and software-defined storage. Before understanding the differences between both, let's understand the terms in detail. VxRail is Dell Technologies hyper-converged infrastructure appliance built on VMware vSAN, integrating compute, storage, and virtualization in a single platform. Nutanix, on the other hand, is a leading HCI software platform that converges compute, storage, networking, and virtualization, offering a cloud-like operating model for on-premise and hybrid environments. Nutanix can run on its own appliance hardware like NX series or third-party hardware and supports multiple hypervisors like AHV, VMware ESXi, and Hyper-V. So now let's discuss the comparison between both on the basis of different parameters. First, on the basis of vendor or hardware flexibility, VxRail is less flexible. Being Dell proprietary, it uses Dell hardware exclusively. This gives tight integration, easier support, but less choice. Nutanix, on the other hand, is more flexible. You can use Nutanix software on Nutanix own appliances, or you can partner with other hardware like Dell, HPE, Cisco, IBM, etc. Moving on to hypervisor flexibility. When we compare VxRail versus Nutanix in terms of multi-hypervisor flexibility, VxRail offers VMware-centric solution. The VxRail storage services are primarily being assigned by VMware vSAN. It is vSAN that integrates into ESXi hypervisor right at the kernel level, resulting in tight integration as well as high performance with a very low overhead. Nevertheless, vSAN necessarily requires ESXi, which is instead not bundled along with the appliance. On the other hand, Nutanix Acropolis pre-installs its own AHV hypervisor as well as render conducive support to other hypervisors including Hyper-V and VMware ESXi. Thus, it provides more freedom if you want to avoid vendor-made hypervisors. Next comes scalability. Scalability is the best feature of Nutanix as it can start in the form of a single node without any sort of upper limit to the nodes within a Nutanix cluster. That is what provides an edge to Nutanix when there are clusters of over 100 nodes in production. VxRail, on the other hand, needs at least 3 nodes and then it can scale up to 64 nodes in cluster. That is one reason it lags behind Nutanix in terms of scalability. Moving on to management and operations. Since VxRail is a VMware stack, if you are already using VMware, management overhead can be lower. Integration is tight, plus upgrades or patches are streamlined in the Dell VMware environment. Nutanix has its management tools unified control panel. If using AHV, the stack is more on Nutanix, which can reduce some complexity. But if mixing hypervisors or hardware, there may be more moving parts. Next comes licensing cost. The cost of licensing is an important factor of consideration in VxRail if you do not already have a VMware-based infrastructure. Likely higher cost if you don't already have VMware licenses, plus being tied to Dell hardware may reduce the flexibility in cost optimization. In Nutanix, all Acropolis tools are used, so no additional licensing is required. However, Nutanix can be expensive too, especially with high performance hardware, but more options give more flexibility in terms of cost optimization. The next parameter to be considered is solution integration. Enterprises that wish to build private clouds besides VMware can opt for VxRail as an excellent choice. It can extend and simplify an existing VMware infrastructure. Most of the management is done via vCenter, whereas software upgrades employ separate applications. On the other hand, Nutanix, the integration occurs during the development phase. It provides simplicity with the help of a single operating system, single management application, as well as one application programming interface for integration with the third-party automation frameworks. So, after understanding the major differences between the two solutions, the obvious question arises when to choose which. You should choose VxRail if you already use VMware and want tight integration and predictable performance. Or you can choose VxRail if you prefer a turnkey solution where hardware, software, and support are all well aligned. You can also opt for VxRail if you have workloads where consistency, enterprise-grade certification, and vendor support matters a lot. For example, large-scale VDI, mission-critical apps, etc. On the other hand, you can choose Nutanix if you want more flexibility in terms of hardware or want to avoid being stuck or locked into a single vendor. You might use multiple hypervisors or prefer Nutanix AHV for cost saving or simple licensing. You can also go for Nutanix if you anticipate scaling dynamically or want to mix different kinds of workloads like edge, cloud, on-prem, etc. Having said that, it is important to consider these important trade-offs and risks. With X-Rail, upgrades and patches are relatively straightforward, but you are dependent on VMware roadmap plus Dell schedules. If VMware has a licensing change or other constraint, that impacts you directly. On the other hand, with Nutanix, if you use third-party hardware or known AHV hypervisors, complexity increases. Also, some performance tuning might be needed depending on hardware combinations. In terms of cost of ownership, both have high upfront cost. You need to consider not just the purchase, but power, cooling, maintenance, licensing, and support. Coming to in terms of skills and staffing, if your team is more experienced with VMware, going with VxRail may require less ramp up. On the other hand, if you can invest in learning Nutanix or AHV, you might save in the long run. So, hope you like this video. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.